Alright, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm excited to introduce a modern and fully responsive sleep tracker web app built with the latest tools like Next.js 15, Tailwind CSS, and more. It includes user authentication, a rich dashboard, and a real-time backend integration, all deployed for free using cutting-edge technologies. We built the entire project using Next.js 15 with the app router and server actions. Tailwind CSS for styling, Neon as our Postgres database provider, and Clerk for authentication. Everything is deployed on Vercel, making it completely serverless, lightning fast, and scalable from the start. Let's take a look at what this app includes. We start with a homepage that features a beautiful hero section, a call to action button, and a visual illustration on the right side. Scrolling down, you'll find a section for frequently asked questions, user testimonials, and a stylish footer. All of this is fully responsive and optimized for every screen size. There is also an About page that introduces visitors to the purpose of the project, our mission, the reasons to use Sleep Tracker, and our story, all ending with a compelling call to action. The layout and responsiveness are consistent throughout all pages. The contact page includes a user-friendly form where users can put their name, email, and message. There is also a dedicated section for contact information. Now let's log into the app. For user management and authentication, we are using Clerk, which makes it incredibly easy to implement sign up and login functionality. Users can log in using Google, GitHub, Facebook, or simply through email and password. After logging in, you are redirected to a personalized dashboard. Inside the dashboard, users will see their personal information on the left panel, including their name, when they joined, and the last time they were active. Below that, there is a sleep tracking section where users can select their sleep quality, such as refreshed, tired, energetic, or exhausted, the date, and also the time they slept. After submitting the form, the data is recorded and a success alert confirms that the entry has been added. All new data updates the dashboard in real time. On the right side, we have a sleep chart that visually represents sleep quality. For example, if the user sleeps more than 7 hours, the bar appears green, otherwise it shows up in red. It's a beautiful and informative way to visualize rest habits. The dashboard also displays the average sleep for the last month and highlights the user's best and worst sleep durations. Users can also view their complete sleep history where all previous entries are listed. They can even delete records, which updates the interface and charts immediately, giving a smooth and responsive user experience. From a technical standpoint, this app is built on Next.js 15, taking advantage of the app router, action server functions, and server-side rendering where needed. For backend storage, I've used Neon, a scalable, serverless Postgres database. Neon is not only fast, but supports advanced features like branching, which lets you create isolated copies of your database schema for development. It also scales to 0 when idle and offers instant read replicas, a fully modern backend solution. For user authentication, Clerk provides a seamless experience and supports various login providers out of the box. It integrates perfectly with Next.js and takes care of everything from session handling to user management, so you can focus on building features, not authentication logic. Lastly, the entire application is deployed using Vercel, allowing us to host the site entirely for free with zero setup. Between Neon, Clerk, and Vercel, the app runs entirely on scalable and production-ready services without costing a cent. All the source code is available in the GitHub repository, which I've linked in the description. Feel free to clone it, explore the codebase, and even use it for your own projects. So if you're learning full-stack development, want to build modern and scalable apps, or just need a solid Next.js project for your resume, you are in the right place. In the next section, we'll get started by installing Next.js and Tailwind CSS. And also, we set up our initial project structure. I'll walk you through every step so you can follow along easily. Let's dive in and build something amazing together. All right, welcome back. In this section, we're going to install Next.js, Tailwind CSS, and create our own first template. I've put the final version here in this link. You can have access to it, test the application, and be familiar with the structure of the website with this address, sleep-tracker.100jsprojects.com. I also have created the diagram for the application, how we can manage the folders and files, and how we create our pages in our website and create the libraries, actions, and etc. by using this eraser.io diagram. I'm going to show you the process of creating the website using this diagram, and also I'm going to share the link of this diagram so you can have access to it, and also you can easily see all the structures and folders. So in the first step, we're going to install Next.js. So I'm going to create a folder. I'm going to create it inside a folder called project in my desktop. Let's create a folder. I'm going to call this folder sleep-tracker. And I just want to add next at the end. I'm going to open this one inside Visual Studio Code. You can use the Windows to open it as well. So let's increase the size of this. So as you can see, now Visual Studio Code is opened, and the Sleep Tracker-next folder is our primary folder. So let's just open the terminal. You can open the terminal by going to View and click on Terminal, or you can use the Control Backtick to open it. So the things we want to do here is to use this command. So for starting the project, we need to use this command, npx create next app at latest. And this is going to create all the folders necessary, the primary folders in our root directory. Also, let's check the Next.js website. Let's search Next.js and we go to this nextjs.org. We can click on documentation at the top. And here in the installation tab, we can see in order to have an automation and create everything automatically, as you can see, we can use npx create next app at latest. It's going to ask us these questions, and based on the answer, they're going to create our application. So I'm going to copy this code and go back to Visual Studio Code. I'm going to paste it here, but because I don't want to create a new folder, I want to keep the same folder as our root. So I'm going to add dot at the end and press enter. This is going to take a while. And first, it's going to ask us to permission to proceed. I say yes, and the version we are installing is version 15.1.8. It's asking us, would you like to use TypeScript? I say yes. S-Link, yes. We want to use Tailwind CSS. I don't want to use src folder. I want to use app router, which is the new way to create pages inside Next.js. And I don't want to use the turbo pack. And also I want to keep the default alias for the import. So I'm just going to say no for this. Now this is going to install the packages we need, like React, React DOM, and Next, and also some dev dependencies for Tailwind CSS and TypeScript, like TypeScript. We're going to have Tailwind CSS, S-Link, and etc. It's going to take a while, and once it's done, we're going to come back and continue. All right, the installation has been completed. As you can see, here we have some files and folders in our default folder. So the structure of the files are like this. We have a public folder that includes the public files, and we're going to have an app folder, which is going to be the homepage of us with this file, page.tsx. So in order to run the application, we can use npm run dev. So once you do that, it's going to create a virtual server for us in our local host 3000. We can just keep the control and click on it, and it's going to open our application here. As you can see, the page is already created with some default like logo and etc. And in order to edit this page, we're going to edit this file, app/page.tsx. So if you look at the eraser, we can see that after using this npx create next app, we're going to have some files and folders. So the first folder is app directory, and we can create our pages inside this folder. For example, if you want to create the about page, we need to have a folder called about, and then we have a file page.tsx, and this is going to be the page /about. For the home page, which is a /, we have page.tsx just inside the app directory. Also, we have a layout.tsx or TS, which is the main layout of our application. For example, if you look at the final version, we can see we have a header here and also the footer under. If we put the header component and footer component inside this layout.tsx, it's gonna be inside all the pages. So all the pages is gonna include our header and footer. So it's very convenient. So we don't need to add the header in all the pages just one by one. We need to just add it to the layout and it's gonna be in all pages. So now, in order to create the home page, we need to edit this file, page.tsx. Well, let's bring this one to the right side and our app Visual Studio Code to the left side. So we go to page.tsx. So what I want to do here, I want to delete everything and create a React functional component. So I'm going to use an extension called ES7 React Redux React Native. This is going to make our creating the React functional component very easy. For example, if I just type RFC, it's going to suggest us a React functional component. So I'm going to click on that. So it's going to create the function. I'm just going to change the name, for example, to homepage. So as you can see now, we have homepage in our root directory, like a /. And in order to be sure that we have Tailwind CSS, we can just add a class name here. And for example, I want to change the color to text red, for example, 500. So it's going to make the text red. So the Tailwind CSS is working fine as well. And if you're not getting this suggestion like this color palettes, you need to install an extension called Tailwind CSS IntelliSense. By having this extension, you can easily get these suggestions, like any color you can choose. So as I mentioned before, we need to go to layout.tsx, and this is going to be the layout of our application. And whatever we add here, it's going to be in all pages. For example, for the metadata, if we change the title and description inside the layout, it's going to be in all pages. So I'm going to, for example, change the title and make it, for example, we just say a sleep tracker. And let's create an application description. And also, if you see this suggestion, and if you don't see this suggestion like me, this is coming from an extension called GitHub Copilot. So if you install this one, you're going to get some suggestion. This is not a free extension. You need to pay for this one, but I highly recommend it because it makes the coding much easier. And also, if you get this GitHub Copilot, you get the GitHub Copilot chat. So you can easily, for example, chat with for example, here, if I open the chat and, for example, I can choose any like model. For example, the latest one, GPT 4.1. For example, I just say, make a title for a sleep tracker app. And this is going to suggest me. And easily I can just highlight this and add this one. And you can see in our application, we got the title sleep tracker. Also, it's designed by Tailwind CSS. So I highly recommend and also you can ask some questions too. For example, I can say, explain the React functional component. You can see they just give you some summary and example. If you have any questions for the tags and everything, for example, what does font bold mean, for example? It's going to explain. It's a bold point in Tailwind CSS utility class that makes the text bold by applying the bold font weight. Usually font weight 700. Okay, so this was for the extensions. So now we have this. The other extensions is important, which is prettier. So when I save any code, it's going to format the code for me. And also I have Prisma. If you have this one, you get the highlights for your Prisma file, because in this project, we're going to use Prisma. And the other things is multiple cursor preserve. So if I choose one, like if I want to change simultaneously something, we can use this one, that this is going to keep the capitalize of the words. And also we have auto rename tag, which is going to change the opening and closing tag simultaneously when you're just changing for example, the opening tag. It's very convenient. So that was it for creating our template. Let's add this one to the GitHub. We need GitHub later to deploy our application. And also we can just save our data and use it later. So you just search for GitHub. I just want to show you GitHub. So github.com. And once you come here, it's free to sign up. Once you're here in the tab, you just click on create new. I'm just going to call this one sleep-tracker-next. And description is going to be, for example, an app for tracking your sleep using Next.js and Tailwind CSS. You can keep this one private if you don't want other people to see your code. Otherwise, you can just make it public. I'm going to make it public, and also you can have access to this GitHub repo, and you can check my code and also copy my code if you need it. We can create the repository now, and in order to connect it to our application, we can just copy these 3 lines of code. Before that, we need to commit the changes that we have done. So we just click here on this plus icon, and then we can create a message here. For example, I just say install Next.js and Tailwind CSS and create the first template. So we can commit and push. Sorry, we just need to commit the push because we haven't connected yet. So it's not going to work. So the commit is already done. We can just open a new terminal and paste the 3 lines of code that we have copied from this. And we paste that one. And this is going to upload our code and push it to GitHub. So now if you refresh the page here, we can see that all the codes are here. As you can see, the app, the folders, and we have 2 commits. The first one is created automatically by Next.js. The second one we have created, as you can see, we have just changed the title and description inside the layout.tsx, and also inside the page.ts, we have just changed our deleted everything, and we have added these things. So if you have any problems or errors in your code, you just come to this GitHub repository with this address, github.com/sahandavidel/sleep-tracker-next. And also I'm going to put this link in the resource section so you can have access to this GitHub repository as well. So you can come in this GitHub repository, go to commits, and any sections you have problem, you just click on it and copy the code and see the mistakes you have done. So that was it for installing Next.js and Tailwind CSS and creating our first template. In the next section, we're going to install Neon and Prisma and set up our database. And also we're going to create the Prisma file and migrate our Prisma rules to our database. So see you in the next section. All right, in the last section, we have installed Next.js, Tailwind CSS, and create our first template. In this section, we're going to install Neon and Prisma and set up and migrate and do stuff like this. What we want to do first is to use Neon for our database. Neon is a Postgres database. They have auto scaling plan. And for example, you can increase your users and they're going to automatically increase the size of their database for you. And also they have something called branching, which gonna instantly branch your data and a schema if you need to have some copies and etc. And also it's completely free to use, and they have generous tiers. I think you can have up to 10 projects. You can have access to Neon simply by clicking on the description and the resource section of the video, or you can go to neon.tech. So you just sign up or logging in your account. They have options like Google, GitHub, Microsoft, and etc. So I'm going to choose my Gmail account. And here is all my previous projects. So simply you can just click on new project and you can just choose a name for your project. For example, I just say Sleep Tracker, for example, next. You can choose your service provider. It can be AWS or Azure. I'm going to just choose Azure, and you can choose your Postgres version, which is the latest here. I'm just going to click on create. So once you create it here, you can easily get your connection string and connect your application with this database. So I'm going to click on connect, and we can just simply copy this snippet, and we can go to our Visual Studio Code, and here inside the root directory, I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call it .env. And here we can just say database underline URL. And we're going to paste that connection string. In this way, we're going to protect our connection string from being exposed. For example, when we upload our application to GitHub, GitHub is when we are committing and uploading our code, this file .env is going to be ignored. How do we know that? We need to add this one to .ignore. And also I want to create a new file called .env .example, because I want to know how to add this kind of URLs, but I'm gonna just write down something else, not completely my database connection string, but inside my GitHub repository you can see this example, but not this .env. But as you can see, both are just ignored now. But if I go to .ignore file and go to .env, I just want to remove all the extensions. I just say only ignore .env, but not the .env.example. So now .env.example is going to be uploaded. So this is for the database URL. In order to have connection with our database, we're going to use Prisma. So we need to install Prisma, and as you can see from even the explanation here, you can see integration. If you go to integration and choose Prisma, you can see that we can have a Prisma integration, and they're gonna the first say that you have to copy your connection strings. So we've done this part, and we need to add this one to the Prisma.schema. We have to choose the provider PostgreSQL, and for the URL we need to have our .env database underline URL. We have done this part. We need to have this file Prisma schema.prisma. So in order to have that one, we need to install Prisma. So let's go back to Visual Studio Code. I'm gonna clear this terminal, and here I want to install Prisma to have that file. So what we want to do here first, it's very simple to do it. So here inside the terminal, you just write down npm install -d Prisma. So this is going to install Prisma for us, and then we need to initialize Prisma. Initializing Prisma, we need to use npx prisma init. So first we wait for the installation. So let's initialize it, npx prisma init. So now after the initialization, we need to see an extra folder in our root directory and see our file, the Prisma file. Okay, now we can see a folder called Prisma, and then we have schema.prisma. So here we have our database source with the provider PostgreSQL and also the URL, which we are getting from our .env. So everything is fine. For the generator client, we have the provider Prisma client.js. For the output, we need to remove this one. We don't want to create the output here. This is going to make problem later if we leave it like that. And after this, we're going to have our model, which includes the user model and the record model. So the model, first the user model has an ID, which is a string. And also by default is, you can just say UUID. And then we're going to have a Clerk user ID because we want to use Clerk for authentication. So we just say Clerk user ID. This is going to be a string and also unique. Then we have email, which is a string and also unique. We have name. After that, we have image URL. We get all of them from Clerk. And also we have created at, which is based on the time, and the default is going to be the current time. After the created that, we have updated that. And also we have, because we have that records, so we want to have records in our application. So it's just say records, and we're going to refer to the record model. And so we're going to create it at the bottom. So the record model is going to be with an ID, which is going to be string. And also we're going to use UUID. And then we want to have text, because we want to, if you look at the final version, let me just show you here. For our record, we're gonna save the sleep quality, which has a text. It can be refreshed, tired, and etc. And also we wanna save the date, and also we wanna record this hours. So we have text, which is this one, and also we have amount, which is this one, and also date. The other things we want to save is the user ID as well. So let's go back to our Visual Studio Code. So the text is going to be string, then we're going to have amount. So this is going to be float, and we're going to have the date, which is based on the date time, and the default value is going to be now. Then we have the user ID, which is a string, and we want to save the user as well. Any record is referred to a user. So we can simply say user, and we refer to this model, and then we add the relationship with the fields user ID, and the reference is going to be that Clerk user ID, which is unique for us. And at the end, we want to add something called onDelete. So when we, this is going to be cascade, and this one should be inside the user. So I'm gonna delete this one, and then we're gonna add the parentheses here. Finally, we have the created at, which is the date time, and the default is now. And also we want to add the index here. We just say add index, and the index is going to refer to user ID. Okay, and this is that's it for our record model. Let's see if we have some mistakes here. Let me check. So this one, the references on delete, and this is cascade. I think this one should be in one line. Yeah, that's it. We don't have any errors now. So now we have created the model for the user and record, and also we have this database. So what we want to do now is to migrate this one to our database, which is Neon. So for doing that, we need to run something on the terminal. So after setting up our model, we need to run the following command inside the terminal. Let me just clear this. And this is going to be npx prisma generate. So this is going to firstly generate it. Let's see, we just get an error. Prisma, I made a mistake for typing Prisma. Okay, let's see. So this is going to create some files for us. Okay, so that's it. And we need to run another command after this. So this will generate the client when we need to create the migration. So in order to create the migration, we just say npx prisma migrate, and also we add div at the end. So now this one is going to create a new folder called migrations for us inside this Prisma. We need to wait until this one happens. So after that, we are going to see that folder with the migrations file. And also if we check our database in Neon, we can see the same models like user and record. Here we need to choose the name for our migration. For example, I just say new model. All right, now our database is now synced with our schema. And if you look at this folder, we can see we have an extra folder called migrations. And inside that, we have a migration.sql file. So this one is using the SQL language to communicate with our database. It's going to create a table called user and also create a table called record, and also to have some connection between these two tables. And each table has the things that we have defined. For example, for user, we have ID, clerk user ID, email name, and etc. For the table of our record, we have ID, text, amount, and so we can now simply go to our Neon, and if you go to tables, we should see our new database. We have two. One is user, one is record. And also you can see the fields. For example, for user, we have ID, clerk user ID, email name. And for the record, we have ID, text, amount. So our database is ready to receive new records. And also, if you want, you can just add a new record here by clicking on add record. So we don't want to do it from here. We want to add it from our application. Another things we need to do is to create a file here, because each time we are gonna create an access to the database, we want to prevent that. And if we already have the database, we just want to use the same one. So what I mean by that is when we want to create a new folder here called library or lib, and here we're gonna have inside this. So let's create a folder, and inside this folder we're gonna have a file called db.ts. So what we want to do is to import first Prisma client, which is coming from Prisma/client. First, we want to declare our global here, and then we just say we create a variable called Prisma, and which is going to be from the Prisma client, or we want to set it to be undefined. And here we want to export const, we're going to call db, and this is going to be global this dot Prisma, or we want to create a new Prisma. So if we have the Prisma already, we want to use it. Otherwise, we want to create a new one. So this is going to prevent from multiple requests. So if this one is production, so use this DB. So we're going to use this one to connect to our database during when we are creating the projects, creating different actions, we can just use this DB. All right, that was it for installing Neon and Prisma and set up and migrate our database. In the next section, we're going to add Clerk authentication and user management features. So we're going to connect the Clerk and save our users inside Neon. So before I forget, we need to add this one to our GitHub repository. We just click on here and add everything. So here we're going to create a message. I'm going to say, for example, install Neon and Prisma. We can just commit and push. So see in the next section for the Clerk authentication. All right, in the last section, we have installed Neon and Prisma, and we connected the Neon database to our application. In this section, we're going to work on authentication, and we're going to install Clerk, and we're going to add the new users sign up with the Clerk, and we're going to add all the information to Neon as well. So let's go to Clerk. You can check the description for the link, or you can just search Clerk and go to clerk.com. Clerk is just all-in authentication and makes authentication super simple. You can have access like a Google, GitHub, and everything in just a very short of time. You can install all of them. In order to have it, it's completely free. They have free tiers like 10,000 user a month. That is enough for any projects to begin. You can just sign up for free and go to your dashboard. Here, you just go to click here and click new application. I'm just going to call this one, for example, Sleep Tracker. Next, I want to add just the email like Google, Facebook, GitHub, and we click on create application. They have like a connection. You can connect it to Next, React, Remix, and etc. I'm going to use Next. We can just install it by having npm install Clerk. Here, we just go to the terminal and paste the code. After installation, we need to add their API keys to our .env file. So I'm going to copy this, go back to Visual Studio Code, and go to our .env file and add it here. And also, I'm going to add it to the example file so you can have like a reference for that. It seems like we are having an error for installing that. Let me clear this and try again. And not this. Let's go back. And I'll copy this one more time. Come here, paste it. So this is the error we're getting. Okay, it seems like the new version of the Clerk doesn't support the Next.js 15.1. All right, I've tried to install a Clerk version 6.1 and it worked, so it's fine. So let's go back to Clerk and see the next part. The next part is to create the middleware.ts file. So I'm gonna create a file in the root, and I'm gonna copy everything here and paste it there. So let's go to the next part. So the next part is to add the Clerk provider and add it to our layout.tsx file. So let's go and do it there. So we go to our app, So let me show you in our eraser.io how this one works. So by adding the clerk to our layout.tsx file, we're gonna cover the authentication in all our application. And another things we need to do here, in order to create the sign in and sign up pages, we can just create 2 folders with the name sign in and sign up, and 2 extra folders with the name sign in and sign up, but with the brackets and 3 dots at the beginning. And this is going to make the signing and the sign up pages. So let's go to our application and go to the layout.tsx. And here we're going to add our clerk provider. So it's going to cover all the application here. So we just say clerk provider. I'm going to close that and cover everything with this. So now we should have the ability to do the clerk in our application. The next step is to create the sign in and sign up pages. So here, if you just click on continue, in order to create the sign in and sign up page, first, as I mentioned in our eraser, we need to create some folders and files. The first folder is going to be sign in, and inside that, we're going to have sign in with the bracket. I'm just going to copy this and go to the app. So we're going to have a folder called sign in, and then we have sign in with a bracket and then page.tsx. Now let's copy this simple page for sign in. So now in our application, if I go to /sign in, sign-in, we are going to be redirected to the clerk authentication. And now, for example, if I just sign in with the Google, let's go. And then this is going to bring us back to the home page. So in order to be sure that everything goes in smooth, we need to add these 3 .env file in our .env file. So we go to .env and paste these 3 here. And also we can do it in our example as well. So this one is going to mention sign-in page is this, and if the sign-in page is successful, we're going to be redirected to the home page. And also if the sign-up is successful, we go to the home page as well. So now let's go to our application, and then we go to sign in. So when we go to sign in, we're going to be redirected to the home page. So it means that we are authenticated. But if you go to application and we go to our cookie, and if you clear our cookie, which includes the clerk as well, let's clear all of them. I think there was an option for clearing all of them. Let me check. I have to do it one by one. It's okay. But once you delete all the clerk, okay, now if you go to sign in, we should be able to see the sign page because we are not authenticated. Now, the things I want to do is to bring this one to the center. So I'm going to have a div here that is covering that. And let me just put it here. So as you can see, I just covered this sign in with the div saying flex item center, justify center, and set the mean height of the screen to be 100%. So now if you go to the signing page, you can see this is in the center. So I want to do the same things for the sign up page as well. So I'm going to copy this folder and paste it again. But this time I want to just change this to sign up, and also this one to sign up. Okay. And here it must be sign up as well. All right. So let's check that if we have a sign up page as well. So we go to sign up. So in the sign up, we have like email and password. We can sign up. So let's sign in again with a Gmail account. For example, this one. Okay, now we are in the home page, and also we cannot have access to the sign in page because we are being redirected to the home page. So in the next step, we need to actually create the navbar like the final version. If you look at the final version, you can see we have a navbar with the logo, the home, about, and also we can see the avatar of the user using Clerk. And if you sign out, instead of the avatar, we see a button saying sign in. So for the navbar, we want to have the navbar in all the pages. So in order to do that, we need to add it to our global.css file. Sorry, to layout.tsx file. So we're going to have a component called navbar, and then we're going to add that one to our layout.tsx. So let's go and add it here. We're going to have a folder called components, and then we're going to have a file called navbar.tsx. Let's create a React functional component for now and add it to our layout.tsx. I want to add it just before the children. So now let's go to here. You can see we have navbar here. So now let's complete our navbar. I'm not going to spend too much time on the styling and just explaining the styles. I'm just going to paste the code and explain it. So our focus is the functionality of the website, not the styling. So let me just paste the code for the navbar. Mostly it's just the styles. So we have to create this file in our library. Just for now, just ignore it. Now I'm going to explain the rest, and then we're going to go to that part. So first we have a logo, like a sleep tracker, like the final version here. We have a logo, and the color is gradient. So it starts from the purple to red, as you can see, purple to red. And we have on the right side a menu with the link to the home page plus the about page. And finally, we have our sign in button. So we have a sign in button like this. So this sign in button, it has a gradient background as well. But if you are signed in by Clerk, we're going to see the sign user button instead of the sign in button. So we're going to create a condition. If we are logged out, we see the sign in button. Otherwise, we're going to see the avatar, which is this user button. So, and then we want to create a function here. We want to call a function called check user. And if the user doesn't exist in the database, we want to save it. Otherwise, we want to just ignore adding it to the database. So let's create this file. So I'm going to show you in the eraser. We have to create a file inside the library called checkUsers.ts. So we go to library folder. I want to create that for checkUser.ts. So let me grab the code and paste it here and explain it line by line. Let's do it again. I think some part is missing. Okay. We just want to have the current user from Clerk. We want to be sure who is signing. So we get the user from current user. And also we want to have the DB. If you remember, we have created another file here, which gives us the DB. And then if there is no user, so we're just going to return. So it means the person is not logged in. But if we have a logged in user, we want to check the database, the Neon database. And we want to check the user like table, find find any user with the Clerk ID. As you know, the Clerk ID is unique. So you're going to search all the users with this ID. If there is a user, we're going to return. So we're not going to add that one to the database. But if there's no user with that Clerk ID, we're going to create it. So we're going to use the method called create inside the table user. The data we want to save is the Clerk user ID. We want to save the name, which includes the first name and the last name. We want to save the user image URL of the user and also the email of the user, which can be, because the users in Clerk can have different email addresses. We want the first one. We want to just one of them save it inside the Neon. And then finally, we're going to return the new user. So in the navbar, we want to call this file. So I'm going to just now delete 2 letters and type them again. So it's going to tell the TypeScript that it's working. So now we want to try to do it. So let's go to our application. As you can see, we have the navbar at the top and also a user is signing. If you refresh the page, we're going to actually call this function. And now we go to Neon database. We choose our database and we go to the tables. So let's go to users. As you can see, now we have a user with the Clerk user ID, email, name, and image URL. So let's try it again with another user. So I'm going to sign out. As you can see, we have this button. Let's sign in again with a different user like this. Okay, now we are logged in. Let's go to Neon and refresh our database. As you can see, the new user is added to the database. All right, that was it for adding the Clerk authentication and also adding the users to the Neon. Let's add this one to the GitHub. So this is going to be, let's get some suggestion from GitHub Copilot. Add Clerk authentication. That's fine. You can just commit and push. And if you want to grab the codes, like for example, this logo and other things, you just come to this GitHub repository and we just go to that section. For example, add Clerk authentication. And for example, if you want to get the code for the navbar, you just grab the code here. So you don't need to type them or anything else. All right, that was it for the Clerk authentication part. In the next section, we're going to complete all the pages that are static, like the home page, this page. that doesn't have any functionality, the about page. I'm going to complete the contact page. And also we want to add this footer. So I'm not going to spend much time for these pages because they don't have any functionality. So basically we're going to just add them and explain them line by line. So see you in the next section. All right, in the last section, we have installed Clerk, and we will be able to save the user data in our database. In this section, we're going to make the remaining page that are static in our website, like the about page, the guest component for the homepage when we are not signed in. We want to create the contact page, and also we want to create this footer. So let's start with the about page. As you can see, they have just the 5 sections, like a title. We have the story and etc. Let's create this page. So if you look at the eraser, in order to create the about page, we need to just create a folder with the name about and a file called page.tsx, and this is going to be our /about page. So let's go to Visual Studio Code, and inside the app, you're going to create a folder called about and also a file called page.tsx. So let me just grab the code here. As you can see, we just have imported the link to be able to go from one page to another. Then we have a section for, as we call it, hero section. You can see here this hero section about sleep tracker, and also we have this description here, but the text color is gradient, so we're going to add the background gradient to R. The next section is the mission section here, which is just very simple. It's a title and a description. Then we have our features section with the title, why you choose a sleep tracker. Then we have 3 questions and answer. The questions or the title comes with the H3 tag, and then the explanation is with the P tag. And this is completely responsive. As you can see, when we decrease the size and we go to mobile size, we have these sections on top of each other because we have added the grid here. So we have 1 column in the small size, and the medium size and above we have 3 columns. The next section is the story section with the title, our story, and the description here. Very simple. Then finally, we have the call to action section, which is here. Similar to the top section, we have a background with the gradient color. And then in this last part, we have a link tag to the sign up page. So as you get ready, when we click on it, we go to the /sign up page. So let's look at our website, and we go to about. So we get the same thing. As you can see, we don't have any error. All right, after the contact page, after the about page, we're gonna create the contact page. If we look at the contact page, it's just similar to the about page. We have a hero section at the top. Then we have a form, and finally we have the contact information. This one is responsive as well. So when we decrease the size, you can see the contact section, everything comes on top of each other after the medium size. So when we complete the form, for example, I'll just say Sahan, email, and just a message. When we click on send, as you can see, the default email of your computer is going to open, and then the receiver is going to be this email that we have here. You can change it to any email you like. So, and it's ready, and it has the message from Sahan because the name is here, and also you have the email, and then the message comes here. It's very simple to do it. So let's create this page. If you look at the eraser, you can see in order to create the contact page, we just need to create a folder called contact, and then a file called page.tsx. And finally, we're going to have this page /contact. So let's go to our Visual Studio Code and create this page. So inside the app, we're going to create a folder called contact and a file called page.tsx. Let me just paste the code here and explain it to you. So this page is going to be on the client side. The reason for using the client side is because we need to have interactivity with this page, because we need to click on the form. So once you click on it, you cannot have it in the server side. Okay, first, similar to the about page, we have the hero section at the top. Then we have the form. For the form, we have onSubmit event listener, and then it's going to trigger a function, which is going to get the name, email, and the message. And then it's going to mail it to this link. So we're going to have this link. You can change your email to this and to update this. And the message is this one, also the email. As you can see, it's very simple to create this. And finally, we have our form label for name. We have the input for name. Then we have label for email and the input for email. And finally, we have the label and the text area for the message. And finally, we have a button to submit the message. Now let's check our final version. We go to the contact page. Just go /contact. You can see everything looks fine. So here the contact information section with the title. And finally, we have 3 sections: email, phone, and address. And we made it grid as well. So it's going to be 1 column in the mobile size and tablet size and below. And after the medium size and above, which is for tablet and bigger size, it's 3 columns. The next things we want to create is this footer here, which is responsive as well. As you can see, in the small size, everything is on top of each other. But in the bigger size, we have 2 columns here. And in order to have the footer in all pages, we need to add it to the layout.tsx file. So we're going to create the footer inside the components folder, and then we're going to add it to the layout.tsx. So let's create this file. We're going to have a file called footer.tsx. Let me just paste the code. So we're going to have link from next links to be able to go from one page to another. So as you can see, like the final version, we have our logo and this small description on the left side. This is the logo and this description. And on the right side, we have the menu for the home, about, and contact, which is going to redirect the user to these pages. And finally, we have the copyright on the bottom, which is created dynamically based on the year. So every year is going to be updated. For example, next year, this year is 2025, next year is going to be 2026. So we don't need to update our website every year. So if you look at the final version now, we don't see it yet. We have to add it to the layout.tsx. Let's go to layout.tsx and add it after the children. So let's import that. Okay. Now we have this header here inside the contact page. Let's go to the about. Still have it. So everything is working fine. All right. The next things we want to create is the home page. For the home page, if you look at the final version, we have some kind of hero section at the top with some title and description on the button, and also an image on the right side. Then we have the frequency asked questions. Then we have the testimonial section. So, but this page is different. The home page is different when we are logged in or we are logged out. So we have to create some sort of logic. If we are not logged in, we should see this page. So we're going to create a component actually called guest.tsx, and then only this component will be visible if the person is logged in. So first we create this component. So we're going to have a component called guest.tsx. Let me just paste the code here. It's very simple, actually. So we have imported sign-in button from Clerk to be able to make this button. When we click on it, we go to the sign-in page. And we have the hero section at the top, which is saying welcome to a sleep tracker. And then the description. Then we have created this sign-in button here. So when we click on it, we go to the sign-in page. And we have the image on the right side. The image is actually, we have to add it to the public folder. We don't have it yet. So I'm gonna make this page available in the GitHub repository so you can grab it from there. All right, I got the image. I've just pasted it here. Okay, so you get the image from the GitHub repository and just paste it here with the name sleep-tracker.png. So here we're gonna have that image, which is going to be on the right side of the hero section. Then we have a divider, which is just a line here. You can see a line here. After that, we're gonna see the frequently asked questions section with the title, a question, answer, question, answer, and question, answer. And this section is also responsive. As you can see, the hero section is responsive, and also this section. And the next section, which is testimonial, is responsive as well. So we have the divider, and then we have the testimonial section with the title and some opinion about the sleep tracker. These are all created like a fake using ChatGPT. You can just ask ChatGPT to give me some testimonial for my website, and he's gonna give you some samples. All right, so now we want to add this component to our homepage. So if you look at the eraser, we can see the homepage was this page, page.tsx, homepage inside the app directory. But we want to see this component when we are not logged in. So we go to the page.tsx here. Here we're going to import current user from Clerk. And then we're gonna just get the user from that. If there is no user, we wanna show that guest component. Let's see if we are getting the correct things. So let's refresh this page. We are logged in, so let's log out first. Let's refresh the page. It's not working. Let's check. Okay, now after this, probably we need to return null. Still not working. All right, we have to return actually the guest. So if there is no user, we need to return this guest. Otherwise, we're gonna return the other things. So let's go to our website and refresh the page. We still cannot see. The only things we forgot here is I put a await here. And once we use await, we need to use a sync function. Let's try again. Okay, now we can see the guest page. All right, it's working. So let's log in and see the difference. Okay, now we see our normal home page. So, but when we are not logged in, we see the guest page. Okay. So everything is working fine. Also, it's responsive as well. All right, that was it for creating our static pages. So let's add this one to the GitHub. So this is going to be add about and contact pages, implement footer and guest component, and include sleep tracker image. We don't need that part. Just say commit and push. So if you want to get the image and other things, you just come to the GitHub repository, come to this commit, the last one, and then you see the image at the end. You can just right click and save the image on your computer. That's it. All right, in the next section, we're going to work on the add record function. So let me just log in and show you what I mean by that. So when we log in, you can see we want to add this part, track your split. We want to have some input, and we want to have a button. Once we click on it, we want to add this new, for example, record to our database, and this is added, and also we want to add it to the database successfully. So in the next section, we're going to work on implementing AddSleepRecord feature. So see you in the next section. All right, in the last section, we have completed the static pages of our project, like the about page, contact page, and the guest component. In this section, we're going to add this track your sleep functionality, and also we want to create this part, which is very simple. We can just get the data from the Clerk and add it here. So what we want to do is to add the components inside create the components and then add them inside the page the page.tsx to be able to see it. So now let's go to Visual Studio Code and we go to page.tsx. We have this part. Now we want to work on this part. All right, let me just grab the code and paste it here. So it's just the main tag, and on the left side we have some information like the user image, user first name. So we're gonna say welcome back, the first name of the user, and then we're gonna show the date that the user is created. We're gonna say joined this date and also the last activity in this date. All this information can come from the Clerk, which we are getting here. And after that, we're going to have this component. Add new script. Let's create this component. So the component is called add new. What was it called? I forgot. So add new. You can say scrape or add new record. Let me just make it a record. .tsx. Let's create a React functional component, and then inside the page.tsx, I'm just gonna import this one there. So now if we check our website, let's go to and sign in with a user. So as you can see, now we can get the information from the user, like the name and then the joint and also the last activity. So as you can see, everything is working fine, and also we have created this component. Let's complete this component. Let's go to this component. All right, let me just paste the code here. So what we want to do is this is a client-side component because we have some interactivity with the page. We need to just click on it or do some sort of using like hooks like useRef and useState. And also we need to create an action for this to be able to connect with our database and add a new sleep record. So we need to create a new, as you can see from the eraser.io, we have an action folder. First, we have created this, we haven't created this folder yet. So we're gonna create a folder called actions, and then we're gonna create a new file called AddSleepRecord. So I'm just gonna copy this name, and then we go to the root page, and here I'm gonna create a new folder called actions, and then we're gonna create a new file AddSleepRecord. All right, so let me just paste the code for the AddSleepRecord for AddSleepRecord. So this is a use server. We need to use server because we need to protect this function from users who are using our website. We're gonna import auth from Clerk and DB from the library that we have created. And also we're gonna import something called revalidate path. So this is going to update the website. For example, this is useful for here. For example, when we add a new record, for example, a new record here, when we press add, we want to revalidate the website. So all the other parts of the website is going to be updated when we add something. So we're going to import that for this purpose. And we have some TypeScript here for the record data and record results. Then we're going to have our function AddSleepRecord. So what we want to add is the text, the amount, and the date value. So, and if they don't exist or they're empty or something like that, we're going to return an error. So this is going to protect our database. So the text is coming from text value, and we're going to convert that one to a string. Then we're going to have the amount. We want to parse this one because we want to convert it to number, and also we want to save the date. So the date is also, it needs to be convert to another format to be saved inside the database. So first thing first, we want to check if the user is logged in. If the user is not logged in, we're gonna return an error saying user not found. Otherwise, we wanna get the existing record. So we wanna check the record, because one thing we wanna know, if I choose the same date, for example, here, I have added the record for the date, for example, 5/16. If I choose 5/16, 16/5 again, and then I just put a different value, I don't want to add another data to the database. I just want to update this one. So when I click on add, look at this one. So it's just been updated, not added. So the new one is not added. It's just updated the existing one. So first we get the existing one. We check the database with the ID of the user and the date. And if the existing record, so we have existing record with the same things, with the same date and the user, we're gonna update it like this. We wanna update it with the new text and amount. So the date is going to be the same, but the data, including the text and the amount, is going to be different. So, and then otherwise, we wanna create the new record. So if there is no existing record, we want to create a new one with this data, text, data, date, and this user ID. So finally, we want to run the revalidate path and for the home page. So everything inside the home page is going to be revalidated. And finally, we're going to return the data. And if there is an error, we want to console log the error and return the error as well. So that was it for the action. Now let's continue for our component add new record. So let me just delete the last two words. So now we have the new action add sleep records. Let me see to be sure. Actions. Really? This one is actions. So this is correct. Should be fine now. So I don't know why the error still is there. Let me add sleep record. Add sleep record. The name is add sleep record. This is add sleep record. That's fine. So the address is correct. Let me just quickly check the address. So we're gonna go to the action. So the action is here. Then we're gonna have the add sleep record. Okay, now the error is gone. So we need to delete it and then put it again. So everything is fine. I probably actually put the actions in the wrong folder. Let me check the eraser. So actually, yeah, actions folder must be inside the app folder. So it's going to be different, but I want to make it exactly like the eraser I made. So I'm gonna just drag this one and put it inside the app directory. And I'm gonna add the app here. That should be fine. Now, it's exactly this way that I have created the eraser.io. So now, let me explain the rest of it. So we're gonna have a form reference using the useRef hook from React. We wanna create a piece of state for amount. and we set the initial value to 6. If you look at the final version, you can see we have this amount and the initial value is 6. So, and then we're gonna have an alert message, which is going to be null at the beginning. This message, a sleep record added successfully. So we're gonna have an alert. It can be for error, and also, so we have an alert for just an alert message, and also we have an alert for type, which is going to be success and error. And also we're gonna have a piece of state for is loading. So when we are adding something, we want to have the loading effect, as you saw before. Let me just put a new one. You see that we have a loading effect. So in order to have a loading effect, we're gonna have a is loading piece of state. Then we have a sleep quality, which is this one, is sleep quality, this value. And yeah, that's it. So we're gonna create our client action for the form data. So first we set the loading to be true when we click on the we submit the form, and set the alert to null. And then we want to get the amount and text from the form data, and also we want to get the error if there is an error when we are submitting the form data. If there is an error, we want to show the error. Otherwise, we want to say if sleep record added successfully. And the alert type is success, so this one is going to be green instead of red. And finally, we want to reset the form and set the amount again to 6, which is the initial value, set the sleep quality to nothing. And finally, we want to set the loading to false. And this is all the things we need. For example, this track your sleep, this is this title. Then we have the form, which includes the label for the sleep quality. And then we have a selector, this selector, which has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 options. So option 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can just choose the options here. We need to have the value and this one. So you can just grab these icons as well. And finally, we're gonna have another form for the sleep date, which is going to be an input with the type of date. So here we can just, when we choose the type of date, it's going to show the date here. For this hours slept, we're gonna use something called an input with the type of range. The range is going to be from 0 to 12 with the steps of 0.5, and the value is the amount. And we're gonna track the changes by using this onChange event listener. And finally, at the end, we have this button for submitting the form. So it's going to be disabled when we have a is loading. And if it's loading, we want to see an SVG showing a circle. So let me show you again. So when we click on it, we see an SVG, which is a circle and moving. Otherwise, we just want to say AddSleepRecord. Finally, we have the alert message. The message is going to be, if it's success message, it's going to be green. If it's not, it's going to be red. And we're going to pass the alert message here. So I feel it's ready to be tested in our website. So we have added this part. Let's choose a sleep quality, for example, tired. And for today, for example, I slept maybe 5.5 hours. Let's click on it. So it's kind of working, the loading. And also we have the message sleep record added successfully. Let's check the neon and the record. Let's refresh this. Okay, the record is added. As you can see, the text is tired. The amount was 5.5, and also date is 5th of May, 5th of May. And also the user is added as well, and created add, and finally it's related to the user table. So let's add another one to be sure everything's working fine. If we don't have this form, if you click, you see that we have the error, and also for the date as well. So let's add for the yesterday, and this yesterday would be, for example, 10 hours. We just say energetic. We add this record. Let's go to Neon. Let's refresh this. Now we have 2 records. The new one is energetic, so it's working fine. So that was it for adding the record. Now let's add this one to the GitHub. Before doing that, I think I made some mistake for the page here. This is for my another project. I think the text is a bit different. This was for the scraping project. So this is going to be for the recent sleep activity. Stay on top of your data inside. That's fine. And everything else is okay, I think now. This placeholder for add sleep record. This one must be sleep record. Everything should be sleep. Recent sleep record. Record stats, record scrape. Yes, that's fine. And this is going to be sleep history. So in the next section, we're going to work on this part, which is this chart. We want to have the chart. When we add something, we want to see the chart, and we see that chart changing simultaneously when we add a new record. So let's add this one to the GitHub. So now this one, let's check a message for that. Implement AddSleepRecord action and SleepRecord component for sleep tracking. That's fine. Let's commit and push it. So in the next section, we're going to work on this chart. So see in the next section. All right, in the last section, we have completed the track your sleep section and also this welcome section in our dashboard. In this section, we're going to work on this chart. The first thing we need to do for creating this chart is to get the information of this person, the sleep record of this person. So from our database, we have these records, and we have to search all the records for the user that is matching the user that is signed in. So we need to create an action for that. If you look at the eraser, we need to create this action, get records. So, this one, the get user records, not all of them. So this is going to be get user records, and we get the get records. Yeah, it's just this time we're gonna use this get records. This one I have just used it for creating this section. Actually, it's average. So we're gonna get all the users record and divide it by the number of the dates. So first thing first, we need to create that action. So we're gonna go to actions and create a new action called getRecords.ts. All right, let me just put the code here. So as you can see, this is also a user server action. So we need to protect this code from the users. Also, we need to import DB and the auth from Clerk. And the other things we want to do, we want to create a type file for our records. But that was a little bit more information we need to add. So I just created a new file for that. For creating that file, if you look at the eraser, I have just created a folder called types inside the root folder, and I'm gonna create a file called record.ts. Let me just grab the name here. Let's go to the root section. So first we need to create a folder called types, and then we have this file records.ts. So it's very simple actually. We just have a type script for record, which includes date, ID, text, amount, user ID, and created add. So as you can see, the date can be a string, number, or date, and the ID is a string, and etc. So let's go back to our function here. So first thing first, we want to get the user ID from the authentication. If there is no user ID, we're going to return an error saying user not found. And then we want to try to find all the records of the same user. So we're gonna use the method find many inside the record table where the user ID exists, this user ID inside the user ID. And we want to sort them by descending, which means the new ones comes first. And also we want to just limit the request to 10 records. You can change this one depending on your needs, because I want to show it inside the chart, so I just want to have 10 records. So we're gonna return that. Otherwise, if there is a error, we want to show the error by console logging the error and also the returning the error. Now we want to create a new component called record chart.tsx. Let me just paste the code here. So let me explain the code. First, we want to use that action that we have created. So we import that. And then we want to get two things from this record. We want to get the records, but if there is an error, we want to get it as well. So we want to get the records or the error. If there is an error, we want to just type the error for the user with the color of the red. Otherwise, if there is, but if there is no error, there is no records, but there's no error. And the records length is equal to 0. We just want to say no sleep records found and start your tracking to see your records here. So for this is the part if there is no record yet, but if there is a record, we want to show it. First, we want to have a title, sleep record chart, as you can see from the final version, sleep records chart. And we want to create another component called BarChart. Let me just explain why I'm creating a new component. Because this is a server component, but the bar chart cannot be a server component. It must be a client component. So in order to keep this component in the server side, I've created a new component. So let's create a new component called BarChart.tsx. So let's just create a React functional component by now. So now, if you just see, we can remove this error by typing it again. Okay, now what else we have? This is the error. So the type records is not assignable to type. Record does not exist on the type. Let me see if we can fix this one error just by GitHub Copilot real fast, because it's just a type error. Let's try to use GPT-4.1. It's faster. Oh, it's okay. I've already created. So it's, I think it didn't make a good one. Let's try again this time. But this time try 4.1. I don't know why it's not accepting my question here. Let's try again. Okay, let's do it again. Okay, let's add this at the top. And this one comes from our type. Let's import that. So it's gonna come from here. It's okay, it shouldn't be a problem actually. I think we haven't finished this bar chart yet, so we are getting this error. So let me complete this here. So this bar chart component, I've just added here. In order to use this component, we need to install this package, React Chart.js-2. So I'm gonna say npm install this package. And also we need to install chart.js. So npm install chart.js. So now we have two packages. We're gonna use this chart. It's very simple. It's just use our data to show it as a graph. So if you check their documentation, you know that how to use it. They have options like title, scales, and etc. You can just play with that. You can change the color, for example, how much size you want for the font, and for the y-axis, x-axis. You just play with that and you understand how it works. So now, as you can see, the error for this one is gone as well. So let's add this record chart to our page.tsx. So it should be in the right column. So this is going to be record chart. Okay. let's see our application now. Okay, now we see the chart here. It's working. So first thing first, I want to remove all these records and see that if there is no record, what message we get. So it's gonna delete the records. And here, let's refresh the page. You can see now we get no sleep records found. Start tracking your sleep to see your records here. Let's add a new one. For example, today, 4.5 hours. As you can see, quickly comes in our chart. Let's add another one. And as I mentioned, it's dynamic. If it's less than 7 hours, we get the red color. If it's more than 7 hours, we get green color. So the sleeps, depending on the quality of sleeps, we get different colors here. All right, that was it for adding the sleep records chart. So in the next section, we're going to work on this section, the average sleep last month. So see you in the next section. Before going to the next section, let's add everything to the GitHub. So we can have a record of each commit. So the message is going to be add get records action, record charts components, and BChart for sleep data visualization. That's okay. You can commit and push. So see you in the next section. All right, in the last section, we have added the sleep records chart. In this section, we're going to work on this average. So we want to create the average sleep of last month. And we just calculate all the sleeps in the last month. And then we're going to divide it by the number of days that it was recorded for that month. So if you look at the eraser, we need to create another actions for that, which is getting the user record. So one user, we get all its records and get back the data and create the average. So let's create this file here. So inside the actions, we're going to create another file called getUserRecord.ts. It's just very simple. I'm going to add this code here. So as you can see, it's a user server action because we want to protect this code from the user. We want to import the DB that we have created, and also we get the auth from Clerk. The other things we need to do, first we check if the user doesn't exist. We want to say user not found. Otherwise, we want to search for all the records with that user. So we get all the users record, and then we want to create this summation of that. We want to see all the records number. Once we have the number, we want to get back the records and also the days with the records. How do we know how many days we have this record? We're going to filter out all the records that has amount more than 0 because it's a unique and we cannot have more than one date. So we get all the number of records here with this different dates. So we're going to return the records and the days with the records. And if there is an error, we're going to catch the error. So the next step is to create the other component. I've mentioned here this component. We have to create this component here. So let's create it. Let's go to the component section. I'm going to call this component, we can say user average record. We can call it AverageSleep.tsx. So that's it. Let's paste the code here. So what we want to get is to get the user record that we have created here. So we have the record and days with the records here. And then we want to have the valid records. So it should be the record or can be 0. And then we find the valid days by just days with the record. If we have a day with the record, otherwise we want to just say 1. For calculating the average, we have the valid days over a valid record over valid days. And we calculate the hours here for the average sleep and the minutes. So minutes is going to be the average sleep minus hours and multiply that with 60. So, and then we're going to create a title for your average sleep last month. And then we want to show the hours and minutes here. And if there is an error, we want to show the error. And if there is no calculation, So we're gonna just say error and then say unable to calculate average sleep. That's it. So now we want to add this one to the page.tsx. So here I want to add this average sleep. So now let's check our website. So we should see the average sleep now because we have two sleep, one half an hour, 7.5 hours, and one 4.5 hours. And the average is going to be 6 hours. So that's it. Let's add another record, for example, for tomorrow, 8.5 hours. And this is going to change both of them. As you can see, the average increased by 6 hours and 15 minutes. All right, that was it for calculating the average sleep. Let's add this one to the GitHub. So this is going to be with this message. Add getUserRecord action as average sleep component for sleep data analysis. We can commit and push. So in the next section, we're going to work on the best and worst sleep. So see you in the next section. All right, welcome back. In the last section, we have completed the average sleep last month functionality, and we have added this one to our dashboard. In this section, we're going to work on this best and worst sleep. If you look at the eraser, we know that now we will need to add another actions for get best and worst sleep. So let me just grab the name. We go to Visual Studio Code. I'm going to create another action. Get best worst sleep.ts. All right, so this is the code for this action. This still want to be at a user server because we want this to be protected from the user. We have imported DB to have a connection with our database, and also we want to get the user data using the auth from Clerk. So we get the user ID, and if there is no user, we're going to return an error. Otherwise, we want to search for and get all the records, especially the one that has the amount, because we want to be sure that has the amount. And if there is no record or the records at length is 0, we want to return best sleep and worst sleep is 0. Otherwise, we want to just get the amounts from the record that we are getting here. We get the records here, and from each record, we get these amounts. And we calculate the best and the worst by using the math.max and math.min. And we're going to return best sleep and worst sleep here. Otherwise, we want to return an error. So the next things we want to do is to create the component related to that. So we can call that component, for example, best worst sleep. We can just say best worst.tsx. All right, so this is the code for that. So first we want to import the best and the worst sleep from the function that we have created. We're going to have a title, as you can see from the final version. This is the title, best and worst sleep. And then we want to have the best sleep. We want to show the best sleep. If there is no best sleep or it's not undefined, we want to say best sleep is otherwise we're going to say no data available. We're going to have a divider, which is this one, and then we're going to have the worst sleep. So let's see if we can get it. Now, before we need to be able to get it, we need to add it to our page.tsx. So this is going to be best worst sleep component. Let's go here. Okay, now it's working. Now we are getting the best worst sleep. The best sleep was 8.5 hours, and the worst one was 4.5 hours. So that was it for this section. Let's go add this one to the GitHub. So add best and worst sleep component and get best and worst sleep action for sleep data analysis. So we're gonna just commit and push. So in the next section, we're going to work on the sleep history. So we're gonna add the sleep history here, and we wanna add the ability to delete our sleep like this. As you can see, we can easily delete it and simultaneously see the results here in our dashboard. So see you in the next section. All right, in the last section, we have completed the best and worst sleep record here. In this section, we're going to work on this sleep history. So it's gonna get the information. The information is similar to this chart, so we don't need to, in order to get the information, we don't need to create a new action. But for deleting a record, we need to create a new action. So if you look at the eraser, so the only actions we need to create now is to this delete record. Let's copy this name and we can create it inside our Visual Studio Code. So it's very simple actually. It's a user server in order to be protected. Then we have our database to have access to the tables inside the database. And also we want to get the user using this off. And also we want to revalidate path when we delete something. So first we get the user ID. If there's no user ID, we're going to say user not found. Otherwise, we want to delete the item where the ID is this record ID that we want to pass to this function. And also we want to be sure that the user the record we are deleting is for the same user. And finally, we're going to revalidate the page. So we're going to see the update inside the page. And the message we're going to return is record deleted. Otherwise, we're going to cache the error and console log the error. All right, let's create this new component called record history.tsx. So this is the code for that. So we're going to get the records. As I mentioned before, we have created this action and we can, for the chart, so we can use it again here. Also, we need to create an item, like a component. We're going to create it later. First, let's complete this component. So we get the records or the error from the get records. If there is an error, we want to say the error with the message with the red color. And if there's no record, we're going to say no sleep record found. And we're going to ask them to add a record. Otherwise, we want to just have a title here, like the final version, sleep history. And then we want to map through the records and we want to show them inside the record item. Let's create this component, record item.tsx. So this code is going to be in the client side because we want to have some interactivity with this item, like deleting, we need to click on it. So we are using use state as well. And then we want to have the record type and also the delete record function that we have created earlier inside the actions, this one. First, we want to create a piece of state for loading. We want to use it for when we click on this delete icon. I want to have a loading effect like this one, as you can see. And we want to have a function which get the record ID and set the is loading to true to start the loading effect. And then we want to request to delete the record from the function that we have created. And finally, we're going to set the is loading to false. Then we want to return the item. So the item can be green or red. So if the hours is more than 7, we want to make it green, which means it was a good sleep. And for the hours less than 7, we want to make it red. So as you can see, we have the condition less than 7 is red and more than 7 is green. And then we want to show the date that the sleep recorded. And then we want to say the amount and also the sleep mode, which is the record.text. Finally, we want to have a button to be able to delete it. And this button is going to call that handle delete record and send the record ID. And when it is loading is true, we want to make it with opacity and also show the SVG here for inside this record, inside the button, instead of the X here. So this one is fine. Let's check what error we are getting here. So let's item. Okay, now it's fine. And also we need to add this record story to the page.tsx, and it should be here inside this dev. Okay, we need to import it as well. Okay, let's see that we are getting it correctly. Okay, now it's working. It's working. Let's delete, for example, the middle one. It's working. I want this one to be white. I don't know why is it dark here. Let's check the code again. It should be around the record item. Text white. I want to add it to this X. This one must be added to both of them. I don't know why is it not added. Let's add a span here. Okay. It's not working. Here we want to add that class name with the text white. Or maybe background white. It's not, I don't know what's the problem here. It's okay. Okay. Still it's nice, it's no problem. So now this one is working as well. Let's add this one to the GitHub. So this one must be the add the delete record action and record history component for sleep record management. So I'm gonna just commit and push it. Now that we have done all the parts, we want to deploy this application to Vercel. So we're going to go to vercel.com and it's completely free. You can just for free deploy your application. So you just click on add new and go to project. And here's all your Git repository. You just choose the one that you have created. Let's add our environmental variables, which is inside our .env. Let's copy all of them and paste it here. And we're gonna deploy our application. So this is going to take around 1 minute. Let's wait. If there is no error, we're gonna deploy our application successfully. All right, looks like we have some error. So in the navbar, we have user, but we never use that. So we can fix that one. We go to navbar component. Here we use the user, but we didn't use it. That's fine. We can just console log it and we remove that error. That's fine. What's the next error? So the next error is unexpected where. So we can add this nowhere to remove that error. So this is inside the DB. And they add nowhere, which must be like this. And we just surround this one with this one. S-link disable nowhere. So let's add this one again to GitHub. So we're gonna have the deploy again. So we just say deploy to Vercel. And commit and push. So this is going to trigger our deployment. So let's go to this sleep tracker. Let's refresh the page. This sleep tracker, and we go to deployment. Now, as you can see, the new deployment has been started. All right, so it's gonna take a while. Let's check if there is no error here. Seems like we're getting an error related to Prisma. Failed to collect configuration for not found. Prisma has detected the expression was built on Vercel. So in order to fix this one, it's very simple actually. What we can do here, we go to our package.json file, and here inside the build, we're gonna have Prisma generate and next build. So we're gonna generate the Prisma first and then use the next build. So let's add this one to the GitHub. So this is going to be update build script to include Prisma generation. Let's again check our deployment. Okay, deployment. Let's go back. Deployment. Okay, now the new deployment is happening. Let's go and check. All right, so it seems like everything is getting deploy successfully. Some of the warnings are okay. You can just change the img to the image tag from Next.js, but it's not important. I think everything is fine. Okay. All right, the deployment completed with no problem. Now this is our domain, so you can click on it. Okay, it's working. So this is our home page. Let's check the about page. We have contact page. Let's sign in with a user. Okay, we have our user with no problem here. Let's go to the home page. Now we can see our dashboard. Let's add a new record here. For example, refresh. Yesterday, 11 hours sleep. Let's add another one. Tired. 3 days ago, 5.5 hours. Okay, it's working here. We can see it inside the sleep history. Let's just delete one of them. Okay, it's working fine. So here's are the domains. You can just add your own domain, and for adding the domain, it's very simple as well. You can just click here, go to setting, you can go to domains and then add your own domain, like the one I did before for my 100jsprojects.com. So that was it for our project. I hope you enjoyed and learned many things. If you have any question, let me know. And let me know what you want to see for the next project. So see you in the next project.